Well, good morning, everyone. Let me see if I can get my music to stop here. There we go. I don't know if you guys were still hearing that, but it was on my computer here. So I'm actually going to unmute everybody because today's coffee talk is really meant to be interactive. We want you to have the opportunity to ask questions and participate in today's conversation. The whole purpose today is to really just kind of bring you all up to speed, share best practices, how everybody is doing. We appreciate all of you being with us today. I do know that we had a question on Facebook about the link to getting into today. We have 20 people that have joined us. If they're Marshall, I see that you're on, and I did message to Ashley. We had a couple questions of today's link to join us. So if we can make sure we get that, I suspect that we'll get a few more people joining us today. So I'm going through, if I guess I could go through, normally I have a button where I can unmute everybody, but I am not seeing that today.
It is on mute.
There we go. I can hear, there, I just heard Tara. So. Yes. We have with us today from the Community Foundation, most of our program staff is here. Vonnie and Candy, we have Pete with us. Ashley and Marshall have also joined us. We are here to answer questions, share some successes that we've had. Happy to just have conversation. Does anybody want to start with something that's going well or a question that you have for us today? If so, just go ahead and unmute and we'll see how this plays out today. Go ahead, Tara. I see you raising your hand.
Yeah, you know, when you just listen to the media and then, yeah, you know, we kind of have our own selfish being here in Elkhart. And then when we think about Indiana as a whole, but I have to recognize Elkhart for doing such an awesome job. And moving forward, when we look at the COVID-19, you know, and I sit right across the street from Beardsley Elementary School. And from day one, we have called to duty and done all we could do to provide for our community. And that's just awesome in itself. But also to make sure all of us are utilizing what we have in front of us, social media, phone calls, to say just follow the guidelines. It's just as simple as that. And I just think we've done an awesome job. Now for me, because I have to work from home like everybody else, I got to make one run. But that gets my morning started. So I think about everybody else, you know, I hope you have that one run to just get out there and see and get back in. But yeah, we're doing a really good job.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Candy, would you like to jump in and kind of share some of the things that you know are going on the COVID Relief Fund that you'd like to share with everyone?
Sure, I'm happy to. I have the distinct advantage of seeing from a kind of distant but kind of broad level of what our nonprofit community is doing to respond to this reality that we're in right now. And people are quickly pivoting to continue to provide services to families and children and seniors and the needy folks in our community. And it's just really inspiring. So United Way and Community Foundation put together a COVID-19 relief fund and created a very simple application that can be found either on United Way's website or our website. We are together making decisions about responding to those requests. And this phase one is all about addressing the immediate need. What is really coming through your front door right now? What do you need as an organization? And we've provided a number of grants to organizations to provide Zoom licenses or other virtual platforms so that they can continue to meet as a team, but also provide services to families. Oklahoma needed to purchase some laptops or iPads, something that they could travel with out to families' homes or close by, so we helped with that purchase. There's some training that we've been able to provide organizations about how to use platforms like Zoom because it is different, it's new for all of us. United Way is really taking the lead on responding to the food requests. So they're really making a coordinated county-wide effort to get food out across the county through the pantries that exist. They made a big bulk purchase and delivered boxes of food to a number of food pantries and places in the community that folks can access food. The other area that's a priority for us is to provide childcare to the frontline workers, the medical providers, EMS folks. There hasn't yet been an urgent need for that, but we're preparing for that. We know that as this situation evolves, the needs will change. I just got, just a few minutes ago, an invitation from Keith Sarber for a group of folks to begin discussion about how do we look at the long-term recovery? How do we look at supporting families who are on the edge of being able to stay self-sufficient and now might be pushed over that cliff? So what can we do collectively across the community for that income stabilization to try to keep people from falling back into poverty when maybe they're on their way out? So there's a lot of innovative conversations going on, a lot of teaming together, which is really inspiring. I think the fund has granted about $220,000 so far. And we're receiving donations into that fund. There's more granting to be done. So if you are one of those organizations that has a need and hasn't considered this as a resource, think about what do you need to change as an organization and how do you need to continue to take care of your staff, take care of each other so that we can continue to provide services out there. I think that's what I have. I wonder if there's any questions. I'd be glad to take any questions. I'll stay on the call, so go from there.
Thank you, Candy, for that update. We also have Mayor Phil Jenkins from Nappanee joining us this morning. Mayor, would you like to share with us how things are going in Nappanee? Thanks for being on the call today.
Sure. Thanks, Jody. It's a pleasure to be here. It's good to see everyone from Elkhart County. I saw Mark Michael is on the call as well from Nappanee, and I know FCDC and Wanee Community Schools have been doing an outstanding job of keeping our kids fed in the community in the entire Wanee area, and appreciate their efforts. We meet in Nappanee on every day at 4 o'clock with FCDC in the schools and our first responders. And so it's been good to stay in contact with them, and I've also been staying in contact with the commissioners and other mayors to talk about how we're navigating through this, what steps we need to take. I think the most difficult decisions were how far do we have to restrict people to take control of this coronavirus, and I think we're still working on that. I know we're getting to the point now where everyone's like, okay, we're ready to get back to work, and now what's going to happen? So we're trying to balance that. I think everyone that I've spoken to really wants to make sure that we take the steps, that we don't fall into that, hey, we're good, let's go back, and then we have another episode of the coronavirus, which pushes us further down the road. So we're trying to really stress the importance of staying at home and keeping that social distance. I think we all recognize that business will not go back to the way it was, just with the social distancing. But I think everyone's doing their part, and I'm proud to be part of Elkhart County and the Nappanee and Wanee community. I think we're trying to address those issues. Did have a good conversation with Pete yesterday, and I know Mark's had a conversation with Candy. Just trying to support the local businesses that are struggling, and trying to do our best to meet those needs. Mark, Michael, and I were talking regarding rent assistance, and what's going to happen when the governor lifts his disaster relief, and what can we do to try to help people that, as Candy mentioned, were on that level of getting out of poverty but are now right back into it. Is there a way that we can extend that moratorium and work with those individuals on financial planning, financial management, give them a window to catch up on those payments. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We've got Don Lehman, our fire chief, on the Joint Information Center with the county, so we're informed there. So a lot of good things going on. I'm glad I could jump on the call today and kind of see what the greater Elkhart County area is doing, but great to be part of. Thanks, Jody.
Yeah, great to have you today. Thank you. Anybody else would jump in and share some good news that's going on in your world, or some support that you would like, information that you need? Tara, go ahead.
I just happened to be down in Nappanee and Wakarusa on the weekend, and just wondering what are we doing as far as our Amish community, because I did see a lot of activity going on, but no mask, and it just might be just that view that day. But what are we doing?
Yeah, we've had those conversations, and it's really been um, something we're really concerned about. I think initially they were one of the groups that were most resistant to abiding by the social distancing, and we've had some conversations. The Joint Information Center has some contacts that they're pushing out information to the Amish community. I think most of the schools and most of the churches are not meeting at this point. We are working hard with the Joint Information Center and our medical professionals to try to get a clinic in Nappanee, a drive-through clinic for the Amish. I know there's one set up now in Wakarusa, but we're trying to get one in Nappanee, and I know probably up in the Middlebury area too, they're trying to get something set up to get them at least screened and tested for the ones that don't that have symptoms. I think that's one of our biggest concerns is, we just don't know in the Amish community COVID-19 is there and if it's spreading. So we've got to get our hands around that to try to determine what our impact is going to be.
I'll just add to that. I also have been attending the daily incident management team meetings, part of the countywide emergency management response. And I know that there is something soon going to open in Middlebury. And it sounds like they're really close to identifying the Nappanee solution that is specifically going to be outreach to the Amish community, information as well as testing and screening. So there is a great deal of attention being paid at the county level to those very vulnerable populations who might typically have a difficult time accessing the normal doors. And so there's specific efforts being made for the uninsured population, the undocumented population, the Amish, then the homeless.
Mayor, what are we hearing or thinking about at the state level as it relates to testing, increasing testing capacity? And is that something that's important right now to the state?
I think it is, and I get my information from the daily briefings from the governor at 2:30, and Dr. Box from the health department gives updates on that and takes questions a lot from the media. I think we're starting to see those tests being more readily available. They're still just testing primarily the most at risk and the first responders at the health facilities. But it sounds like that those tests are becoming more readily available. So I think it's still a struggle, but I think they are making progress and more tests are being available. They mentioned that LabCorp, I think Beacon uses LabCorp. They're back to a 2 to 3 day backlog. So that's a good sign. I think we were getting information from the state on number of positive cases. We had tests that were done a week or two ago, merging with those results that were done 2 or 3 days ago. So we were getting higher numbers than what was actually reported. So that data, the state has changed their dashboard for the health department. If you haven't gone there to see that, it's very informative, and they've now got information by county. But I think the health department and the state has done a great job of leading the way and leaving it up to locals to kind of help them spread the word and assist in any type of enforcement that needs to be done.
All right. Thank you. I'm tending to a couple different questions. We had some confusion on our links. A couple people had some struggles getting into today's call. We apologize about those technical issues that some of you may have experienced. Mayor, again, thank you for your updates. Anybody want to share anything great that has come out of this social distancing and working at home? What are you guys seeing that has been positive in your communities as it relates to your mission that you would like to share?
This is Lisa. Can I talk a little bit?
Of course, please do.
Lisa Guedea Carreño from Elkhart Public Library. As soon as we closed the library to the public, we began moving things online, like virtual story hours and customized book lists of electronic resources that we either have or would get. And we reallocated money from physical items to electronic items. And we've seen a lot of traffic there. We also set up an online registration for a temporary card. And we've had a number of our staff working from home as much as they can. But I wanted to throw out there that we've also got staff members who really, the type of work they do in their jobs really doesn't lend itself to being working from home. If you are staffing a public desk most of the day, there's not a lot you can do from home, and they're doing continuing education and trying to catch up on backlogged things. But we have staff who are eager to help somehow in the community that we could redeploy, and we also have a space that we could utilize with proper precautions if there is a need for any kind of one-on-one meetings behind plexiglass or whatever once things start ramping up again for social services. So I just wanted to let you all know that please think of the library if you need bodies to transport stuff, if you need hands to sort stuff, if you need places to set up appropriately social distanced one-on-ones. There are other public libraries in the state are doing this kind of thing, and I really would like to help in whatever ways we can with people or spaces at any point where there is a need and it can be done and it can be met, or we can help meet it in a safe, precautious way. So we are still closed to the public. We are still offering a number of online services, and we'll continue to do that. Right now we are scheduled to reopen on May 4th, but truthfully, it's really going to depend on when the stay-at-home order expires and whether it's supposed to expire on the 20th, but it may be extended again. And as long as that stay-at-home order is in place, we will not open to the public because we simply cannot do that safely in a way that we used to be able to be open to the public. And when we do reopen, it'll be in phases probably. But even while we're closed to the public, and continuing to offer and beef up our services online, there are things that we can do with selective opening and or redeploying staff who have pretty much done all they can at home for now. So please keep us in mind if there's anything that we can do, and be in touch with me, and I'll put you in touch with our community engagement coordinator.
Lisa, that's great. There's so long has the message been that what you expect your public library to be is not, and you should visit the public library to see all of the upgrades and the changes to going into a building that's a collection of books and you can't talk. You guys have done such a great job of really breaking that mold and stepping into the community and just being a great resource for so many. Really appreciate that update and everything that the public library is doing. It's wonderful. And I think even with our children e-learning and really needing to make sure that there's no learning loss or anything, I think that you as the public library are going to continue to be a vital resource to our children, to our teachers, and to our community. So I appreciate you joining us and sharing some of the great things that you guys are doing there. Appreciate that.
Thanks.
Carla, do you want to ask your question out loud, or would you like me to read your question?
Doesn't matter. I can read it.
Great.
I just got off a phone call with the local environmental educators in the county, and so we kind of had some questions, and we're talking through, like, as people move back into this new normal, it's going to be in phases, like we just heard from the library. How is that going to be affecting things? What precautions are people going to be taking? What should we be thinking about to be prepared for those next steps as we go through the social distancing?
Anyone want to try and tackle that question? I kind of feel like if we had a crystal ball, that maybe we could all answer that question a little better. I would love to know what tomorrow is going to bring and what things look like. You know, I a couple weeks ago I used to say I just will be happy when the social distancing is over so we can get back to life before COVID. And now that dialogue is definitely shifting to when are we going to realize a new normal? And I think that things are going to be slow and cautious to make sure everybody is staying safe. Maybe Mayor Jenkins, we'll keep calling back to you. Maybe you have a better answer to that. I don't know what new normal looks like. How about you?
Yeah, I don't think we know what that new normal looks like. And like I mentioned before, I think everybody has done such a fabulous job. The governor mentioned in his press conference yesterday that the Great Lakes area has really been doing, I think, probably been more aggressive on the first steps, and I think we're starting to see some of those results. But we can't let down. It's going to take them looking at the data in front of them, looking at the suggestions from CDC, and working with businesses. I know businesses are chomping at the bit to get back to work, and trust me, we want that more than anything. But I think the more we can have a resolve to get through this, take the gradual steps out of it, the quicker we'll be back up and running. And I think that's what we have to look at right now, is that long game. We know that we're finding out that we can still communicate through formats like Zoom, so that's very encouraging. It's are we missing anything? Are we missing any groups? Are we missing any demographics that we need to include? And I think so. I think there will be a new normal. Not sure what that is, but I think we're seeing some positives out of it. In the way we communicate, in the way we conduct our public meetings, we're handling all our meetings through Zoom, and it's been effective so far. We're still continuing business in the city of Nappanee. So there's ways to work around it, and if anyone can do it, it's the folks from Elkhart County.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Eric Garten, you wanted to share what you guys are doing for the new normal.
Yeah, sure. I'd say one of the biggest pieces for us is realizing that obviously this is evolving every day, and we can speculate all day long. One of the things that's been helpful to us is keeping a sort of an evergreen letter on our homepage that I actually look at on a daily basis. And if there are updates, I try to make those based on what we do know. So really trying to look at the things that we can control, and realizing that even when there were travel restrictions and the stay-at-home orders are lifted, that we'll likely still be within some sort of CDC regulations. So putting protocols in place for our public opening that include things, like minimizing personal contact. Obviously, we may open without restrooms to begin with, just because we're so limited on what our ability to clean those would be. But making sure we communicate it, and just having that list, and literally on a daily basis, I've been having just touch base meetings with our guest services staff to make sure that if the regulations were lifted today, that we'd be able to at least have an answer to the question of when will you open, which is the question that we get a lot at Wellfield, and I'm sure others of you who deal with the public do, like Lisa. So having that in place, revisiting it, it also allows us to sort of control what we can control. So, going back to Dino's lists from last week, we don't know all the answers. And do our control and put into place things based on the facts that we have right now. And I also know it's a fact that it's beautiful outside, and I hope everybody can get outside and see it safely. I kind of like in my home office here, I've got a great view out of a window that I don't normally look out of. So I've seen a lot with this. So that's what we're doing. Happy to share offline or answer questions of anyone that's in a similar situation to us. But thanks everybody for being proactive and keeping everybody safe.
Eric, I've loved your virtual walks through the garden. Please
Oh,
keep
yeah.
those coming. Those are nice.
Sure. Thanks.
Appreciate that. Will the garden be able to reopen? Is it not considered one of the public parks that can be properly social distanced?
Correct. No, we can socially distance properly. We're not a public park, and our trails are actually wide. One of the really interesting little stories I'll share from our colleagues nationwide in botanic gardens, there are hundreds of them, and a lot of them are seeing people going out, the ones that are open just with unlimited access during daylight hours, many of them that don't often have staff out in the gardens during the day, they're having to put staff out in gardens during the day to actually keep those spaces closed if they don't have limited access, because people are doing a decent job of social distancing, but that might come at the cost of stepping off trails and crushing plant collections. So we have actually more damage happening in some areas with small trails. Unfortunately, we've got some that are just big. In places like our children's garden, that's just going to be closed. We won't be able to open it until we're able to make sure that surface contacts and whatnot are able to be wiped down. But we're going to do what we can when we can.
Great. Thank you for that. Sonia, you were wanting to spotlight something. I'm going to bring you up to speed here. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. Thank you, everyone. Yes, the Convention and Visitor Bureau has been working on providing love notes as a positive, hopeful campaign for all. We encourage you to go to our Facebook page to see a variety of organizations sharing their love and our countywide rallying cry. And I'm going to try to share this video. We'd love to see your organizations take up the cause and do your version of this rallying cry. So here goes. Fingers crossed. All right.
Look at all of us learning technology. Question is are we going to get some sound here? And if we can't get the video to play, what we can do is make sure that we share this. Please go to the Experience Elkhart County on Facebook, and we can also put it on our Facebook feed as well. You guys are having a lot of great fun at the Visitor and Conventions Bureau, and we really appreciate your fun spirit and the change of mood. When everything feels fearful or alone, you guys are just doing a great job of bringing community together. So we'll make sure that you guys can have an access to seeing this link, so we can't get it up.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Well, we are approaching the end of our 30-minute coffee chat. I'm not sure. I was anticipating a little bit more people coming in, and I am so grateful that all of you were using the chat feature. It looked like there was some good dialogue going on about playgrounds. Thank you, Sherry, for answering some of those questions about what you're seeing, and appreciate everybody's feedback. It looks like there is an outstanding question here. Sorry, Sherry, about disparities. Sherry, do you want me to, you want to ask that question live to the group?
Sure, can you hear me?
We can hear you, yeah. I'm gonna find your video here. Oh, you're, okay, yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm new to Zoom, so it's, if I go out, my apologies for that. But just, it's of course all throughout the national media about the disparities when it comes to health disparities. But I think as everyone's talking and raving about the Zoom phenomenon, we're not really talking about the digital divide. And so as we have access to internet and high speed, there are many communities that do not. And a lot of those communities mirror those that are lower socioeconomic and rural communities. So it's important to find a way that we can still get that information out to them in multiple ways. And even if they have a smartphone, they may have limited data availability. And so it's just being mindful of what we do have access to and be mindful of those who don't have the same access to information that we do. So that's the thing that I'm really concerned about. One thing that we're doing at ADEC is thankfully the state has lifted some of the restrictions when it comes to doing telehealth. So we've been able to do a lot of our therapies, in particular music therapy, with our clients that way. But there are some who don't have the same access to computers and computers that can take high speed data. So that's some of the disparities that are present. And during this crisis, a lot of disparities are coming to surface because we're paying more attention to that now.
Yeah, great points. And that's an awesome segue for us to wrap up today's call, and hope that you will all join us for Thursday's coffee chat, where we will be talking about what those language barriers are doing and how they're affecting so many of our communities that don't have the natural or the means to continue to social distance and learn, whether it is a lack of English proficiency to resources that are available through internet or computer skills. And again, I'll give a shout out to the public libraries. And I know so many of our businesses are trying to provide unlimited data and internet to some services. I had heard at one point that school buses were being parked in neighborhoods for Wi-Fi connectivity. And so I do think that there are so many people trying to make sure that people have the resources they need to be safe and continue to at least feel connected. But I hope that many of you will join us for a conversation around how the language barriers really preventing access to some of these resources. And Jason Shank will be joining us along with Melissa from the Center for Healing and Hope on Thursday for that coffee chat at 2 o'clock. So gang, I really appreciate it. This is so much fun for me and for our team at the Community Foundation. It's wonderful to see so many of your faces. Thank you for participating in today's town hall. We will continue to do these as long as we continue to see engagement. So appreciate you taking time out. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. If you have questions that we didn't get to, feel free to message us. We have a recording of the chat feature, so I can go back through and look at that as well. So take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week and enjoy Tuesday. Hopefully we don't see snow today. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Jody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.